Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. This is the Have We Met Michigan English Test webinar series, and we are so excited that you are spending part of your day with us. We've got a really great presentation planned for you today. Um, Specifically, today our topic is applying to U.S. universities, a holistic versus assured review of applications. And we are so excited to be joined by our friends and colleagues at Temple University. So I will be handing the floor over to them shortly. In the meantime, if you would like to introduce yourselves in the chat box, some of you have been doing that. We would love to know a little bit more about our audience. So your name, where you're from, if you're a student or if you're a parent or a teacher or counselor or somebody that helps students, that is great for us to know as well. So today we've got Peter Lumby, Director of International Admissions at Temple University. Also Madeline Urbine, International Admissions Counselor at Temple. And we will also be joined by Andrea Jimenez Wolf, which is a Y-US ambassador at Temple. And my name is Audrey. I'm a business development and recognition manager with Michigan Language Assessment. So once again, we are just so excited to have you all here with us today. Keep those introductions coming in to the chat box. I'm going to take just a moment to introduce MET in case MET is new to you. This is a very brief overview of what it is. So Michigan English Test is a multi-level English proficiency exam. It's designed for secondary school students and adults. It's a digital 4-skill exam, and we are available in test centers around the world. And also at home in most countries, that's an option. The MET assesses between the levels of high beginner and advanced, or the A2 and C1, if you're familiar with the Common European Framework of Reference. So I'll be back at the end of our presentation today to talk a little bit more about MET, but I want to give the floor over now to our presenters at Temple. Thank you all for being here with us. And I will let y'all take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Madeline. Like Audrey said, I work at Temple as an international admissions coordinator, and I'm joined by my boss, Peter, if you want to give a little introduction.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Peter, and I am really happy to be here. I'm thankful for MET to organize this event that we talked about, and I hope that regardless of which institution you plan on going to in the future, I think the information that you will get here today will be useful for you. So appreciate it.
Awesome. And then we will be joined by Andrea Jimenez later. She is just getting out of class, so she'll be able to join us a little bit later and talk about her experience applying to colleges in the US. So if you could head to the next slide. I wanted to give you just a little overview of Temple before we get into the main meat and potatoes of this discussion. But yeah, so Temple is in the top 100 of the US schools and colleges. Peter, please correct me if I'm wrong. But so yeah, we are in the sixth largest city in the US, in Philadelphia. We are a large R1 research institution, so the highest level research that we offer in the US. And our biggest majors for international students tend to be business, computer science, biology, all of those kinds of things. I think it's really hard for me to pin down our best program because we're such a large public university. We have a lot of ability to put in a lot of resources and some really cool kinds of programs for all of the different things that students are interested in. And being in such a large Eastern city, there's a lot of opportunities for career growth, working with local companies, Fortune 500 companies, having internships and stuff like that. So there's a lot of growth opportunities here for international students. And we have students from over 115 different countries internationally. So yeah, that's a little bit about Temple. And then in this presentation, we wanted to talk to you about the overall Common App process, and then the difference between holistic review and assured or standard review of applications. So if you could head to the next slide. Perfect. So anybody in the chat, please just write in, what are the two absolute most required things for your application? Yeah, just give me an idea of what you're thinking about the two things that you need to submit for every application. Yeah, I know we're a little bit early. Actually, we're right in the middle of application season, so whatever you think. Perfect. Recommendation letter, that's a good one for sure. Grades, yes, definitely grades. Grades is a huge one. Uh, Okay. Financial support, definitely. Okay, so can you click the slide? Okay, perfect. So you guys were close. Transcripts, 1,000% is one of the two main things that you need for a college application. And then the other thing, it was a bit of a trick question. The other thing that you need for application is the application itself. And then optionally, in order to support your application, you're going to need English language proficiency scores, SAT and ACT scores, depending obviously on the school, if it's test optional or if you even choose to submit your scores, and then letters of recommendation. Not generally required, but they always help. So yeah, those are the kinds of things that you need. And then in terms of financial support, definitely important. But for admissions purposes, that is generally for the visa process. But you definitely need financial support to be able to study in the US. Yeah, next slide, please. Perfect. And then another question, when do you think is ideal to start filling out college applications? You can either choose one of these or write what else another time that you think is most important in the chat. I know I'm asking a lot of you guys here. But yeah, so most important times, yes, two is a great one. Sometimes I'll even say before two, especially if you're thinking about applying or if you're thinking about taking SAT and ACT tests. A lot of times, if you're planning on doing it your senior year, you will not get a spot until probably towards the end of the application season. So, especially if you're thinking about taking a standardized test or if you're an international student and you need to take, for example, the MET test, think about that a little bit ahead of time before you're submitting your actual application. But generally, between the summer between junior and senior year of high school is the perfect time to start thinking about your application. But yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so with the Common App, and there's other kinds of applications, such as like the Coalition app and the University of Texas, or Texas universities have their own system. But generally with the Common App, the great thing is that you're able to apply to or I think it's 20 universities is the maximum amount of universities you're allowed to apply to with the Common App. And you have one general application. So it has all of your biographical information, your scores, and all that kinds of stuff. And then schools will have their own questions or essays and stuff like that. But it's really nice because it saves you a lot of time, and schools are getting all of the same information about you. So there's the online, school-specific, paper apps, all of those kinds of things. But yeah, so this is just who you are as a person, your grades as a student, and then the deeper you get into the application, the more you can kind of sprinkle who you actually are, outside of just who you are on paper. So yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, if we can get this to play, that would be awesome.
Sure, let's.
I think if you, yeah, perfect.
I actually pulled it up ahead of time, so there we go.
We can't hear Audrey. Share the
Oh,
sound.
okay. Alina, how do I do that?
When you share your screen, it has like a little tick box that you should share sound as well.
Um, it will not let me click the the share sound button. I see what you're talking about, but it's not giving me that option.
Uh,
See,
we don't have to do the video if it's not working. I know I always struggle a little bit with the videos.
I had it all pulled up ahead of time for it. So, but yeah, can you see where it's not letting me click it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Oh, I hate that. I'm so sorry about that.
I think we can go on. That's going to be fine. It's the Common App. It's just an application system that is used by actually over 1,000 schools and university worldwide. It's about probably about 900 in the US and about 300 outside the US.
Yeah, basically the Common App is going to be your holy grail in terms of applying to colleges in the US and elsewhere. But there's, like we said in the last slide, there's a bunch of different options on how to apply to schools. So, yeah, next slide, please. Perfect. And then when you are submitting your transcripts, which do you think, or which kinds of classes do you think colleges will and will not consider when looking at your high school grades? You can also throw in some other classes that you're a little bit on the fence about in terms of your own schooling, if you have any questions. So yes, two, exactly. So physical education and gym, we generally do not consider that mathematics. Math we will always consider. But regionally, different regions will have things such as like physics, or excuse me, civics. Physics will always be considered, but civics, government, all of those kinds of things are a lot more case by case, but generally schools will not consider civics in those kinds of courses. We want to see courses that are academic in nature, unless you're an art student applying to an art program, then we're obviously going to be looking at those kinds of specialized courses that you've been taking. So yeah, next slide, please. Perfect. Um, and then basically the things that counselors are looking at, like I was saying, in terms of your transcripts are academic rigor. So we're obviously looking at academic courses, so humanities, sciences, maths, languages, things like that. But then we also try and look at the challenge, the level of challenge that you have in your coursework and your curriculum. Are you in an IB program? Are you in an AP program and things like that? And also, we're going to get a little bit into this when we talk about the holistic review. But have you improved over time? So yeah, overall, we're just looking to see that you as a student have succeeded, and a lot of times colleges just want to make sure that their students will thrive on their campus. So that's the main thing. Other than just high grades that we're looking for, we're also looking to make sure that we have students who will thrive on our campuses. So yeah, and then the things that transcripts and other documents that we need, a lot of times we'll need national exams if that's required of your country. So a lot of times, especially at Temple, what we're looking for is if students are eligible to apply to university in their home country, then they're eligible generally as a rule to apply to Temple. So we're just looking for students who have completed the highest level of education that they can before attending university in their country. And we also will need your school profile, and that we will get information about the grading scale of your school. We'll get information about the languages, the courses that you the language or medium of your courses. So is it English language school, Spanish language school, bilingual, the kinds of courses that you're taking, rank, all of that kind of stuff. And then final transcript. So that, especially if you're applying now, and you haven't finished your year, we will not have access to your final transcript. So you're just going to submit that after you have applied, and most likely after you've received your admissions decision. So right now, if you're applying, you'll be just applying with the final transcripts of your most recent finished year. And then from there, we will just make sure that your final transcripts match up to who you've shown us to be as a student beforehand. So we'll probably receive those sometime next summer. And then we have the English language proficiency, exams. So those look like the MET test, obviously, Duolingo, it looks like IELTS, TOEFL, and then some schools, including Temple, will use SAT or ACT exams as well. So next slide, please. Yeah, so
Instead of playing that, do you want me? This is really just a short in view, and that's basically saying that the most important thing, and I think you kind of already answered on the two previous slides in terms of what the universities are looking for. Even the most select universities, the number one thing is your transcript and the way that we calculate it. So at any given institution, I would say not just in the US, but in the world, at least 60 to 70% of your admission is about your transcript and how that fits to that institution where you're applying. So I think that pretty much sums up that particular video.
thank you, Peter. But yes, so I gave you guys a little foray into this. But yeah, please answer in the chat which you think these can be used as an English language proficiency test. Perfect. Elkin, you're on it. Violet, thank you. Yes, TOEFL definitely can also be used, but basically all of these are English language proficiency exams, depending on the school and what they accept, obviously. But ACT is the one that I threw in there to confuse you guys a little bit. But Temple, for example, we do accept that. The rest of these are official English language proficiency exams. And it really depends on exactly what the school is looking for, because for Duolingo, it's more standard English than academic English. TOEFL is more academic than standard. So it really just depends on what the schools are looking for. But all of these are definitely valuable resources to just test where you're going to be at in terms of your English language and how you're going to succeed in like an English medium curriculum. So yeah, next slide, please. Perfect. And then this is just to give you an idea of the grading scales for each of these tests. So yeah, so this is pretty straightforward. So generally, we're looking for, so for TOEFL, we're looking for at least like a 79 in the English language as a foreign, or test of English as a foreign language exam. So it really just depends on the school and what their credentials are. But I really recommend that you reach out to schools if your scores are lower than their minimum scores, because they, at least at Temple, we have a conditional admissions program, and we work with students to improve their English language while they are while they're also gaining credits for their normal degree at Temple. So they get the 2-for-1 deal. So they get to work on their English and then also get to take credits that go towards their degree. So yeah, I always recommend to students to reach out. And then something sometimes that students get a little confused about, thank you, students get a little bit confused about is that test optional for international students generally does not include English language proficiency exams. Even though they're standardized tests, that generally just means SAT and ACT. So yes, thank you. Okay, and then who do you think can write your letters of recommendation? You can write in the chat, or if you have anybody else. Yes. Yes, Maria, perfect. Always I would recommend to almost never include a parent or guardian, just because we want to see how other adults, other mentors that you have interacted with see you and how they think that you're going to improve. Your parents always think you're going to do well, but I think for universities, it's really important for us to look at how other people, other adults in your community will be, how they think that you're going to do at a university. So, yes, next slide, please. Cool. And then this is just to give you a little bit of information on how to request a letter of recommendation. Ask early because, especially if you go to a larger school, these teachers, these guardians, they probably, or these mentors, excuse me, probably work with a bunch of students. So it's important to get there before your peers do. That way you can get the best letter. Teachers will not have as much, they won't be as fatigued from writing letters all season. So it's a great idea to get out earlier and to ask them then. And somebody who really knows who you are. So a coach is a good idea. Say if you struggle in math and you're constantly in tutoring sessions, that teacher will see maybe they're not the best student in math, but they constantly work. They know who you are as a person. So that's always a great option. And anybody you really feel like you have a close connection with as a mentor, it's always a great person to reach out to. Make sure you give them as much information as you can, and then you waive your rights with FERPA, which basically just says that teachers and mentors are allowed to send grades and letters of recommendation on your behalf without you looking at them. And then just follow up and make sure that they are submitting for you. So yeah, I'm going to pass it over to Peter if you have anything else to include about what makes a good Common App or application in general.
Yes, thank you, Madeline. So I have a few notes, and I thought after you guys have heard this that maybe there's a couple of things that can kind of help you keep in participation. So this is not necessarily just the Common App, but it's really your process. So as Madeline just said, really start early on the process. When you have located and narrowed down which schools you're going to apply for, then there are, I would say, at least 5 things that you need to go over. And I'm going to just briefly go over them. And if you have additional question afterwards, we can do that. And I also want you to hear from our student who has already gone through this process. So, but first, make sure you review and understand the academic profile of the institutions you're looking at. Most institutions are going to have their GPA profile for their students, test scores if they're required, what the average is and stuff like that. Make sure you fit that, whether maybe you are above or if you're a little bit below. That sort of give you an idea how you fit into that institutions. In terms of the requirement, again, make sure you prepare early, including the language requirements, right? Or test scores. Madeline just mentioned that sometimes it can take a long time. I know that my daughter is going for the SAT, but for example, she's just a junior this year, which is fine, but she couldn't get an appointment until 4 months out. So if you are planning on taking the SAT, for example, be aware that it might be a long time before you can actually get the test. So prepare early. Understand what the various deadlines are and keep them. Understand that there might be different deadlines for different things. So, for example, we might have an application deadline where the latest one is February 1st. There might be a different deadline to submit a scholarship application. There might be different deadlines to actually accept the admission. There might be a different deadline for housing, for the visa process, and those things. And very often, those are last chance deadlines. It is not guaranteed that if you don't submit your reply in time, that you will actually be successful. So please keep that in mind. Understand your financial situation. This is probably the toughest for most of us. I'm a former international student, and I certainly realize that the cost of attending university in the US is quite high. So make sure you understand what financial assistance that you may need. Make sure that you review and understand before you apply if that college offered that level of support. If not, don't apply, right? You need to understand whether there is an end. I think I speak for both Madeline and I and everybody in our industry that we get terribly sad when we see and hear students that we have worked very hard with and that are really great just to learn that they cannot afford to attend our institution, even if they have a strong scholarship. So that is something that you will need to consider. how do you find those scholarship rights? They can be all over the place, especially for international students. At Temple, we very clearly labeled the international scholarships on our international admission page, but there are other scholarships at our institution that international might be available for example, in our colleges very often, in our select programs where you do a performing arts or a visual art or something, and we don't control those, so we don't have any way of actually putting in what you can expect, etc. You have to go through the colleges to figure that out. And of course, there are also a lot of financial assistance that are external, either in your home country or also in the United States through private organizations and donors. Make sure you review and connect with the college of your choice. There are usually tons of information. This is clearly time consuming, so you will need to start early. But crucial is to understand what you're going to be doing and what's available for you. And I will finally say, and I think this is something that Andrea, when you meet her in a second, she can probably attest to that, is to get involved. Review the website, like I just say, visit the web, understand the deadlines and all of the requirements, the scholarships. Do a virtual tour of your college if you cannot visit it in person. Attend webinars like this one or those that are offered by the university to get more familiar both with the staff, understand how they work, but also with the specific college that you're looking with. So, for example, if you're interested in engineering, check with the College of Engineering, find out what kind of resources they have. So finally, my biggest advice on this is actually where we started on this conversation. That is, start early. Give yourself time. There's a good old saying that says the early birds gets the worm. Sort of the same thing with the admission process. But I also want to assure you, this is not complicated. It is actually not too difficult. It just takes time. Thank you. I'm happy to take additional questions in the chat, and I think Andrea will probably answer some of those questions as well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Peter. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a little introduction to Andrea before she starts. She is a fall 2023 YUS scholar. This is a nationwide scholarship that was kind of it was brought to the nation by Temple and a bunch of other universities. But basically the YUS scholarship asks students to submit a creative project explaining why Temple or why their university and why studying in the US is the best option for them, be it intercultural learning, the different kinds of opportunities that you're going to experience here versus in your home country, and just in general, like why you chose to study abroad rather than stay home to study there. But yeah, we are pleasured to be accompanied by Andrea. So Andrea, take it away. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thank you for having me. I'm gonna switch the language to Spanish. So, hola a todos, yo soy Andrea Jiménez, estoy en mi segundo año acá en Temple y soy de Lima, Perú. Bueno, les voy a contar un poco de mi experiencia acerca de todo esto. Todo esto yo ya lo pasé, yo estuve en esta misma como que reunión y la verdad es que suena un poco difícil, pero no es difícil, todo está como que paso a paso. Bueno, yo voy a contar mi experiencia ya. Yo creo que, o sea, mi experiencia se pasa en 8 pasos. Primero la investigación inicial, después completar el Common App, escribir ensayos, la revisión y los envíos, y bueno, y la investigación de las becas, preparar las becas y obviamente cumplir con las fechas y límites y después del seguimiento. Yo creo que el primer paso que fue la investigación, yo comencé por investigar diferentes universidades para ver sus programas académicos, la cultura del campus y diferentes oportunidades disponibles. Esto me ayudó a ver si la universidad en sí era una buena opción para mí. Después me registré en Common App. Como ya explicaron, Common App es una plataforma que permite que estudiantes de secundaria apliquen a diferentes universidades con un solo formulario. Esto incluye secciones como la información personal, la académica, extracurricular y el ensayo personal. La mayoría de las universidades, bueno, en Estados Unidos, que utiliza Common App, requieren que los solicitantes envíen este formulario como parte del proceso de admisión. Yo en Common App apliqué a 7 universidades, de las cuales solo me contestaron 4, porque creo que, bueno, no sé si todas te responden, pero a mí me contestaron 4 y las 4 me aceptaron y me dieron una beca. Bueno, después fue como que el momento de escribir los ensayos como que el ensayo principal se llama el personal statement, que este ensayo es el que te permite compartir como que tu historia, tus experiencias y como que lo que te hace único a ti. En ese ensayo como que creo que este ensayo es clave porque como que como que hacen que te entiendan mejor, como que entiendan mejor al solicitante, más allá de las calificaciones y de los resultados en los exámenes. También es necesario pedir recomendaciones a los profesores, como ya lo mencionaron. Obviamente es importante escoger a profesores con los que como que te lleves bien, porque no vas a escoger a alguien que, no sé, no le caes y no, como que no va a escribir una buena recomendación para ti. La cosa es que escojas a un profe que te ha visto como que tu esfuerzo y tu trabajo duro durante esos años de secundaria. Después, cuando ya tuve todo, como que lo envié, yo me aseguré que estaba bien, porque a mí me daba mucho miedo, como que, no sé, mandar algo por error o mandarlo mal. Y así que me aseguré bien, le pedí a mis papás que me ayudaran, le pedí a mis profesores si podían ver como que mi proceso, si estaba todo bien, así. Después, cuando investigué, cuando ya tocó el tiempo de investigar becas, porque como que nada es gratis en esta vida, así que tienes que conseguir las cosas. Yo investigué becas en Temple y en otras universidades y me aseguré de que eran becas especialmente para mí. Así como mencionó Peter, hay becas que son para estudiantes latinos o para international students. Bueno, en Temple las becas están como que todas bien ordenadas y te dan como que todos los pasos para seguir. Eso me parece como que muy sencillo, como que tú solo tienes que seguir los pasos, mandar los documentos que te piden, que son tipo tu visa, tu pasaporte, tus transcripts, como que el financial aid, toda esa cosa. Pero para mí me pareció súper fácil hacer todo eso porque te ayudan y en verdad se preocupan porque recibas esa ayuda. Al empezar a trabajar en las solicitudes para las becas, yo redacté ensayos y reuní como que los documentos necesarios. Me acuerdo que en una de las becas, creo que la que estaban hablando justo antes, yo postulé a la que como que te daba muchas opciones de mandar diferentes formatos, que era o un ensayo o un video o un collage de fotos o un poema, creo. Y yo escribí un ensayo porque la verdad que me pareció lo más práctico. Bueno, obviamente es importante asegurar de que todas las solicitudes de las becas estén antes de la fecha límite y yo mantuve contacto, tipo mantuve así comunicación con los coordinadores de las becas para resolver cualquier duda. Después de enviar como que las solicitudes, igual hice un seguimiento, que ese ya sería el último paso más o menos, para confirmar de que todo esté en orden y para como que expresar mi interés. Así como dijeron, como dijo Peter, creo que como que lo más importante ahorita es, o sea, cuando ya estás como que siguiendo los pasos, es como que get involved. Yo cuando llegué tenía miedo de que no me adapte, así, como que algunas cosas aún no estoy adaptándome, por ejemplo, la comida de Perú es la mejor, y tipo comer acá a veces me hace extrañar mi comida, pero yo creo de que el hecho de como que involucrarme en diferentes organizaciones y clubs acá en Temple me hizo sentirme como que en familia, como que en un sentido de comunidad, que eso es lo que me gusta de Temple, como que te hace sentir en comunidad. Igual acá hay un montón de latinos, la verdad que yo pensé que no iba a haber casi nadie, como que pensé que no iba a haber tanta gente, pero he conocido a un montón de gente de todos lados. Ahora tengo amigos de México, de Puerto Rico, de Argentina, sí, y me parece increíble crear ese sentimiento de como que una familia. Yo estoy en diferentes clubs en Klein. Klein es la escuela de communications y como que media, porque yo tengo, sí les dije, creo, tengo un major en communications y un minor en digital media. Y en Klein me he unido a bastantes organizaciones y me parece muy lindo como Temple te da esa oportunidad de ser parte de algo de lo que te gusta. Así que no sé si alguno de ustedes tenga una pregunta de, no sé, el proceso o de todo lo que dije.
Awesome, Andrea. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Ya.
The 8 steps. That was so detailed. But yeah, so to everybody in the meeting, she'll be here the entire time. So if you guys have any questions, just reach out to her in the chat. But yeah, we are so thankful to have you. Those are awesome, awesome tips. But yeah, something I always stress to my students is that Philly is a huge city, and we have a bunch of different communities from all over the world. So if you're feeling a little bit homesick, I think there's always a place for you in Philly. You can always travel around a little bit and get a little bit acquainted. So it was great to hear that, Andrea, and I'm really glad that you're finding a great place in Philly and at Temple. But yes, thank you. Perfect. So if we could go to the next slide. Okay, so now basically we're just talking about the review process. So this is going to be on the university side and how we as admission counselors are looking at your applications. So what is a holistic review? What things do you think that universities are looking for? Again, another little multiple choice question if you want to answer in the chat. What kinds of things in your application do you think a university is looking for in a holistic review process? Yes, James, perfect. All of the above, for sure. ABC, exactly. Yeah, so basically the holistic review process, as it sounds, we're looking at you as a person, we're looking at the whole application. So we want to see everything, throw everything at the wall, and we just want to see everything that makes you you, and not just you as a student, but I always tell my students who you are outside of school. So we want to see the dynamic person that is you. So yeah, so next slide, please. Perfect. You can tell I made this slide because I said dynamic students. This is what I tell every single one of my students when I talk about this. But yeah, so we are looking for a little sprinkle of your personality in a bunch of different parts of your application. So we're looking for we're looking to see what kinds of activities you do. Students will do everything from student government to doing a nonprofit on the side, to making their own business, to doing sports, to doing some kind of cultural club at their high school, to journalism. Or I know some students I've seen last year when I was reviewing applications would just go home and watch their siblings or take care of their grandparents, and they would include that because that's something that they do outside of school that does add on to who they are as a person. And then we also want to see you in your essay. We want to see what you think. We want to see what you think would represent you as a student and how to get to college. I always find it very interesting. I myself crochet, and I remember one of my favorite applications or essays that I've seen. A student was talking very. Yes, Andrea, go ahead. You have a question?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I know I was going to tell my my personal like the how do you say it? The personal letter that I sent
Yeah.
for the Common Up was about soccer because I just love soccer. And I remember I was like talking about soccer. I don't know how it went, but I remember it was so funny. And I remember where you just said like you can just talk about what you like and what you are like passionate about.
Yeah, great point. I think when I applied, I talked about cooking with my grandma. Like I definitely, I was a soccer player as a student too. So I think every single time that I personally see students who do things that I like to do, not to say I'm biased, but I think it just makes me remember their essays a little bit more. And I think it adds a personal touch. So that's just really what we're trying to see. Like Andrea said, we're just really trying to see students who are putting effort into their applications. I think like students who put effort into their application, that helps a little bit in terms of sometimes maybe if they're on the fence of one scholarship range to another, to help them bump up. Obviously depends on the entire application as a whole, but we really like to see students who are putting in effort. And also, I always think it's important to kind of think about the story that you're telling as a whole. Are you a leader? Are you passionate? What kinds of impacts are you making? Where do your talents lie? We're not always looking for a student that's doing 80 things and sleeps 4 hours a night because of how packed their schedule is. Sometimes we just want to see students who are very invested in the things that they're up to. And they're very, very interested in it, and to see like how that will carry into their career. Or even if it's not carrying into their career, how they're going to make space for that activity when they're here in university. So yeah, really we're just trying to find students who have passion because that's what we want on campus. We want students who are engaged in the community, and if you're engaging your community at home, chances are you're going to be engaging your community here. And also it's really great for students, like I was saying earlier, we want to always find students who are going to thrive. So it's great for us to see students who have a bunch of different interests, because then chances are it's gonna be easier for them to make friends on campus, to be able to ask for help, to find resources, to do well in their classes, because they have a bunch of different facets to them. But yes, so then another thing that we're looking for, we're going to get a little bit deeper in slightly later, is academic rigor. So I was talking about AP, IB, and all of those kinds of courses. But also like regionally, say if you're in Brazil and your school doesn't offer AP or IB, but your school is like top 3 in your region, we're going to try and take a look at that as well and notice that you are studying at higher levels than your peer just because your school pushes you a little bit harder than other schools do. So that's part of the holistic review process, not only in just the things that you can tell us, but also holistic in terms of your academics as well. So sometimes like we'll see students say if they come from wherever they're from in like high school, and then English isn't their first language, and then we can tell like, so they spend their entire high school in the US, freshman and sophomore year, maybe their grades aren't great because they're struggling with English in all of their classes, but then they start to improve in junior year because they get their English legs, like their C legs, they're able to kind of acquaint themselves a little bit more and to improve. We try and really look at students to see the trajectory of all the time that they've spent in high school. And that's why we ask for normally around 3 years worth of transcripts, so then we can see who you are as a student and how you've improved from being 14 to 18, and really see how you have approached your academics in that time. Yes, next slide, please. Uh, Perfect. So, basically, yes, we're just looking to see, I said throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Genuinely, we are trying to just see, as much of who you are as we can in the application. So truly put as much as you can of yourself into the application, because we just want to know that you are student prepared to study, in the US, especially because chances are you're an international student. If you're here, you have to take the MET test. So we just want to know that students have the ability, and the the they have the tenacity to be able to study in a different country, because it's not the most difficult thing ever, but it's not also easy. So we just want to make sure that students are well-rounded. And then also, that's why in our letters of recommendation, we always recommend to ask for teachers and mentors who have seen you go through trying times, or have seen you overcome a super difficult subject, or have seen you like struggle in a position in your soccer team, for example, and have seen you overcome those kinds of obstacles. So yeah, Peter, if you want to hop in here.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would add is there's two things actually. So just like we said, start early with the process of reviewing and getting everything ready on the application. If there is a field, even if sometimes you like scratch your head, it's like, why are university interested in my parents and where they went to school, or whether they have a degree or not, or other things. These are actually important things for universities that are using a holistic approach, and very often also part of the selection process. So think of the holistic review on your end is your opportunity to submit an application that is beyond your grades. So where things that are not, that we cannot learn from your transcript. So that is really good for us. But from the university's point of view, this is actually the way, especially select universities, that they use to narrow down who they want. So when you all have a 4.0 GPA and 1500 on the SAT, and you apply to Harvard and you get disappointed when you don't get admitted, it's because Harvard, they use a holistic approach to select who they bring in. And when they have 1,000 students to select for with the same academic parameter, they go into that holistic review and do a selection based on that in terms of what they need to fill their classes based on their holistic review in terms of what they want the class to look at. So that is one of the reasons why you want to make sure to complete your applications. All those little weird fields that might not seem like, what are they to do with the applications? And then write a cool essay about food. I'm just kidding.
Thank you. I mean, it worked for me. Write a cool essay about food. You never know. But yes, thank you. That I definitely forgot was the first generation thing. We always just want to, like I said, we want to find students who can succeed, and we also want to be able to help students as much as we can. So the more information you give about us, the more information that you give us about you, the more we can help you. So yeah, thank you for that, Peter. Next slide, please. Perfect. So yes, this is the standard review or the assured review, depending on the school that you're applying to. So what is the difference between standard and holistic review? Which of these factors do you guys think makes up a standard review? Again, just throw it in the chat. I appreciate this. Not the chat doesn't always work for me in terms of people replying. So you guys are very active. I appreciate it. Okay. So yeah, basically all of these all of these work for standard review. Basically standard review is applying for who you are as a student. Your grades, all of the all of the markers of what makes a good student. So grades, GPA, standardized tests, class rank, all of those kinds of things. So next slide, please. Perfect. So standard review guarantees admission. I put that in quotes because it depends on the school. A lot of times standard reviews are for semi-less or slightly less competitive schools versus holistic being for like more highly competitive schools. But it guarantees admission, like I put that in quotes, because it really depends on the quotas for those schools and what they are looking for. So, generally for like community colleges, you will be guaranteed admission. But say if a school only has 300 seats available for their first year class, very small first year class, but say they only have 300 seats available, even if you're meeting all of these markers, you still may not be accepted just due to other factors. So, the great thing about standard admission is that it kind of takes away the guessing game from applying. But you so you kind of know the grades you need, the rank you need, the scores you need, but also it is a little bit more rigid in that you can't quite make your case for why you deserve to be on campus in the same way you can in the holistic review. So yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so here is just a slight comparison between assured review and standard review. So assured is you are assured an acceptance based on these standards. So if you meet these specific standards, then you will always be accepted to this school. So like I said, this is very common with community colleges because we are looking, or community colleges generally just try and be like they try and be very accessible sometimes like as a pathway to get students who may have struggled in high school or have gone through difficult circumstances and get them to a normal or a regular four-year university. Sometimes students start and finish at community colleges, but yeah, so assured review is for student or for schools that are less competitive, and you are guaranteed a spot based on those admissions criteria and regardless of academic standing. And then standard review, like I mentioned, is really just based on the quotas and who the quotas, so how many seats are available, what kinds of students they're looking for, the academic criterias that are needed. So are you meeting your class rank? Are you meeting your GPA? And then finally, who they're looking for to have. So students from this area, for example, or students, they're looking for soccer players or things like that. But yeah, like I said, the nice thing about assured and standard is that you kind of know exactly what you need to submit in order to be accepted. So yeah. Peter, do you have any other pointers?
No, not really. Just I would always say that there is nothing that is 100% guaranteed, but there are institutions that will basically say that if you have a certain GPA, you are guaranteed admission eligibility. However, again, there might be other things that you need to submit for that. You might need to understand which way that they're calculating the GPA. Are they looking at only 1 year? Are they looking at multiple years? I've worked at an institution once where test scores were the only way to get a scholarship at that institution. So you were pretty much guaranteed admission if you had passed high school, But if you wanted a scholarship, you had to submit SAT scores. So SAT was not a requirement, but for the scholarships only. So make sure you understand what the options are.
Awesome. Great point. So yeah, next slide, please. And then yeah, something I always love to tell students is that we're not inaccessible. It's not that you submit your application and then think that you can never talk to us. We are here to help you through the process. If you have any kinds of questions, if you're confused about what a letter of recommendation is, if you're struggling, financially, we're going to try and help you find resources. We might not always have the answer for you, but we're going to try and help you find some resources. So just reach out to us. And a lot of times we do like to hear from you because we know then that you're interested. You're as interested in us. If you have questions, just reach out and contact us. Yeah, next slide, please. Perfect. So I'm going to give it to you, Audrey. Thank you all for
All
listening to
right.
us out.
Thank you, Madeline and Peter and Andrea. Muchas gracias. That was the school you're interested in does, and then that will help you to prepare what you need to for admission to that particular school. I'm going to take just a quick minute. We're coming up on time here to talk about the Michigan English test in particular. While I'm talking, please, if you have any additional questions, go ahead and get those in the chat box. We would love to answer any questions that you have. But you have options when it comes to an English proficiency exam. And so this is just a few pointers on why you might consider the Michigan English test. We do have a very cost competitive exam. So we are on average about 20% less expensive than other options, depending on where you're taking the test. And we know sometimes life gets really busy. You're trying to get everything together. You can register for our exam up to 48 hours beforehand, and you will have your results within 5 days. So those results are yours. They don't go away, and you can share those with as many universities as you need to. I skipped over that, but you do have the option to retake one section at a low cost if needed. So if you don't feel like you performed your best in one area, we have that option for you. And then finally, and very importantly, we don't want you to have to spend extra time, money, energy towards preparing for the exam. So you can go in without any special courses or textbooks. We have free resources available if you'd like to get a feel for what the Michigan English test is beforehand. But yes, so that's just a brief overview of our exam. This is a webinar series, so we've got more on the horizon here. Our next one will be on Thursday, November 14th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And this will be from classroom to career and studying in the US and how that leads to work opportunities. For that one, we will be joined by our friends and colleagues at Rutgers. And that pretty much concludes our webinar for today. A few more minutes. So like I said, if y'all have questions, if anyone has questions, we can answer those. But thank you so much to Peter and Madeline and Andrea for being here. We're very happy that you were able to join us and very grateful.
Thank you guys so much. We are so thankful to be here. And also please reach out to us if you guys are interested in Temple at all. And Andrea, thank you. Peter, thank you. It was great to present. And thank you, Audrey, for setting this all up. This was awesome.
Thank you again from my side. And I don't know if audience, if you're shy, don't be shy. If you're shy about asking in English, please feel free to ask in Espanol.
Sorry, guys, I just wanted to pop in here because it looks like there's a question from Freddie about one of our exams that we offer called ECCE. And I don't believe that's currently recognized by Temple, but it's something we could discuss with them if you could learn more about this exam and that if they were to apply using this exam, would you be able to review it?
Normally, we try to expand and keep it relatively simple with industry. I am not familiar with ECCE. Is that a Michigan product?
Yes, it's a
I'm sorry, I didn't know that one.
Okay. So we have two that are certificate levels. One is B2, and that's the ECCE that's being asked about. And then we also have a C2 certificate level. So they're a little bit different and not as widely available as the MET itself, but it would be specifically for the B2 level this Freddie's asking about.
I think Freddie, from if I'm going to promote MET here, I think if it's possible, maybe you can take the MET. Sure, we can get a little discount if it is or something like that. If somebody is there, and we can work that out.
Perfect. Any other questions?
And I'm sorry, I was sitting and looking in the chat for the question just to realize that there is the Q&A box as well.
Yeah, that's okay. I um actually didn't realize that myself until halfway through when Riley was sharing the questions over in the chat box. So thank you, Riley.
Freddie, double down if there's a course for the MET certification. I don't know if there's a course, Alex. That will
There's
be
no
something maybe you
course.
can answer other than just the test itself.
Yeah, Freddie, there's not a course. So you should just be able to register for the exam and take the MET. If you've already got the ECCE and you're a B2 level, then you should do quite well on the MET. So no prep course needed for MET.
Can I make a suggestion as well then? This is just from our side. I don't know if all universities, but we already talked about holistic. So we have MET verified right now as a test result that we accept. So I'm sorry that we don't know the ECC, the ECCC. I'm missing a C somewhere.
ECCE.
Yeah. So if you are submitting the MET score for us and you have the ECCE, then I would actually recommend, if you don't mind, please submit both results. That way, as we go through times, we might learn about correlations between the two and understand what that relationship is. And that will help us maybe make that possible for the future, if not right now. That's kind of like how we learn about how different results mean something, to us. So great question. Thank you, Freddie, for that.
I don't know if we saw this question, but I saw it a couple of questions ago, and it was if all of that you guys mentioned applies for postgrads as well. So I saw that question somewhere in there.
That is a great question. So Temple University, unfortunately, in many ways, we are a little bit complicated because we are a large institution. So our undergraduate admission is centralized in my office and Madeline's office, but our graduate school is decentral. Most of the majors are going to have the same level. The MET has not been vetted yet at the grad level, but if you have an MET score and you are applying for a graduate program at Temple, please feel free to, when you reach out, if they say it's not acceptable, please feel free to mention me or something like that, and then I'll talk with them. We know that we talk together. We just work separately on the admission part. So I'm fairly certain that I can help verify the MET exams for graduate purpose. Fairly certain. I'm going to give it at 90%.
How about for the application aspect? Would you say it's really similar? Would you give the same tips
Yeah, I
for
will do
applying?
it. To some extent, it's sometimes you need to start even earlier on grads. And depending on what you're applying for, there might be even more requirements, right? Because, for example, if you're applying for a business program, you might have to take a GMAT exam. If you are applying for a medical school, which I know very often we get students who are then interested in that, you have to do an MCAT exam or something like that, which is unique for medical schools and other stuff. So they are similar, right? You don't have the SAT, but you probably have other graduate exams, and they have to be, practiced and prepared in advance and submitted. So it just depends for each program and which exam that you will take for that program. Sorry, that's a great question. We're talking pretty much from undergraduate, but I think, yes, most of it can be elevated and used to the same extent.
Yes, I think the overall is start early, get information about where you want to go and get started. So I guess we can apply it to postgrad as well.
I would say so. At Temple, I saw the question was for electrical engineering. So, especially engineering programs, one of the things that I will say is extremely important because very often the graduate school, when they admit students, you also become into consideration for teaching assisting or for example, if you want a PhD or something like that. It is very important that you then find a professor who is involved with the type of research that you want to do or the development that you want to do, start a dialogue so that if you are looking at the PhD, they might be able to sponsor you. Obviously, this will have significant financial, outcomes for you if that is the case. So those parts are a little bit different, especially at the graduate level. That would not be at all institutions. That is, I would say, primarily at large institution that has research facilities like Temple does.
I also want to add that I included our degree program link. So I'll put that in the Q&A, but I can put that in the general chat. You can just look up the different degrees that you're interested in, and then if we have it at Temple, it will show information about the undergrad and the grad programs. Just make sure that you're looking at the actual degree. So if it says MA, it's master's, BA, stuff like that. But yeah, that'll be really helpful in terms of finding what we offer at Temple.
And I know we're out of time. Freddie, you're not wrong with the master's comes before the PhD, but if your final outcome is PhD interest, then you actually do apply for the PhD program. The master's degree is just a step in the process of that, but there can be different interest and outcomes.
All right. Well, we will wrap up. You have the contact information here for Temple if you have any follow-up questions. A huge thank you once again to our presenters today and everyone that made this webinar possible. And we'll hope that you join us on future webinars as well. So thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, Alex, for allowing us to join. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Have a
See you
great afternoon.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.